Jennifer Burbella has severe anxiety and depression, and as a result, she says that she had a very difficult time passing a nursing class in the college program that she was taking. Now, she is actually opening a federal lawsuit against the professor in the nursing class and the university because she says that they didn't give her the proper accommodations considering her mental health illnesses. She says that she was supposed to get accommodations because she has these disabilities and she wasn't given the proper accommodations. So she's seeking $75,000 in damages, but her attorney, Harry McGrath, says she wants to fulfill her nursing dreams as well. So not only does she want the $75,000, she also wants another opportunity to take the nursing class again, even though she failed it twice, with the proper accommodations to prove that she has a fair shot, okay? Now, this is really fascinating because a lot of people have anxiety and depression, so I was wondering whether or not she needed to get some sort of doctor's note to prove that she had it, and she did in fact get a doctor's note indicating that she had depression and anxiety and that these accommodations were necessary for her to pass the class. Now here's what happened. She would like the ability to take the course under the proper accommodations and become a nurse. The lawsuit states that Burbella was granted disability accommodations midway through the second time she took the class, the second semester, but then she ran into more problems. So what happened? She alleges that she was about to take the final exam and that she asked to take the exam in an area that wouldn't cause any disturbances. So she apparently gets distracted easily, so she asked to take the final in a different room. So the professor, of course, agreed and set her up in a different room, apparently in a different building. Now that caused anxiety for her. She said that, well, what if I have a question that I want to ask you and now I'm in a different building? It's going to be really difficult. So I need you to put me in a different room, but in the same building. And apparently the professor did not agree to that. And the lawsuit claims that even though Burbella didn't get that accommodation, another student with a disability got that accommodation. And she thought that that was unfair. Now, she also alleges that while she took the test, she called the professor on the cell phone and the professor did not answer, and that led to so much stress and anxiety that she broke down and started crying. Needless to say, she didn't pass the final, she didn't pass the class the second time, and that was what led her to file this lawsuit. According to the lawsuit, Burbella asked her professor, Christina Tompkins, if she could change the terms of an accommodation that allowed her to take the test in a distraction-free environment. So she's saying, look, I didn't get all the accommodations, I didn't pass the exam, didn't pass the class twice, and so as a result, I should sue. What do you guys think?
I think that there are a lot of different moving parts in this. I think that, so I TA'd classes. Like, we do give accommodations to people based on, generally it's not anxiety and depression, it's like a physical handicap that means that either you can't write, so you need to have someone else do it for you, or that you can write, but you can't write as quickly as a normal person or an able person, and so you need more time.
Yeah.
And generally that doesn't involve another room, it just means more time for the test. I think that generally professors will probably not like that, but whatever. Like, people sometimes need additional time, and it doesn't hurt the other students to give them that. And so you should be very accommodating. Now, whether it needs to be in the same room as that building, that, I think, is a totally different question. I do think, though, that if you're going to have someone in a different room, you have to answer your phone if they call you.
Yes.
And so she would need to establish proof that Christina Tompkins did not answer her phone, which I don't think that has been proven in this case. But overall, I would say that if the problem overall is that she wishes she had been able to finish and she couldn't because of this test, rather than the $75,000 in damages, just let her retake it. Give her a month to study with access to the materials. Let her take it a third time and set up the perfect room with Christina Tompkins standing on the other side of the door. And then you don't pay the $75,000. She gets to graduate, which is what she says she wanted in the first place. And then you move on from there.
I agree with you 100%. The $75,000 in damages, first of all, when you sue for damages, you have to prove that there are damages. And so I don't know how she accumulated.
I guess.
Maybe it's tuition. And so if that's the case, how about instead of paying the $75,000, you just have her retake the class or retake the test free of charge and see whether or not she passes it, right? I think that's an easy solution. But I have, I guess, a bigger, broader statement to make about this. And it has to do with people who have certain disabilities that might deem them unfit for certain professions. So this is just a class that she's having issues with because of her depression and her anxiety. I think we should be as accommodating as possible when it comes to those with anxieties, whether it's a mental health illness or a physical disability. But at the same time, if you have certain disabilities, you're not necessarily the right fit for certain jobs. You want to be a nurse, but you have severe depression and severe anxiety. That could really stand in your way of being a nurse, right?
Well, I was thinking the same thing. Now, I just want to, can I get clarity on this story? Because it seems like she needed to take the test away from the rest of the class taking the test because taking the test with the class would distract her because of her anxiety and depression.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, well, that doesn't sound good, right? That sounds like she's wrong. It sounds like they tried
I could
to
see how some people could get freaked out from like not just the test itself, but also like, oh my God, one person just finished, and then these people, they seem like they know what they're doing, but I don't. Like I can understand how you could get anxiety from that.
There are lots of moving parts at a hospital. So if you are a nurse in the ER or just a regular nurse in a non-ER setting, let's say you're treating someone, there's a billion other things happening around you, and there's a lot of stress. I'm not trying to discourage people with anxiety and depression from doing or pursuing a career that they absolutely love. But it would be the equivalent of me saying that I want to be a calligrapher, but I got both my hands amputated. It doesn't make any sense.
Yes.
Well, there you physically can't do the job.
Right. In this case, she kind of physically can't do it either because her mental health condition prevents her from doing it.
I don't know. I mean, I think, look, I can say from my own personal experience, when I was in graduate school, I was taking a stats exam. I was taking stats, and I'm not very good at math, and I'm especially not very good at graduate level stats. I was not cut out for it, and I don't know if it was a panic attack because I'm not a diagnostician, but I have never felt like that before, and I felt like the world was shattering around me, and I locked up, and eventually I was able to push through it. But if a person, like we would say, that's life, and that's how we look at anxiety, but people with anxiety disorders, they don't feel the same level of anxiety we do. They feel a very different level of anxiety. And if people regularly feel what I felt in that stats exam,
they shouldn't be nurses.
Maybe. I would say I totally understand what you're saying. I think that is a separate thing that the hospital she wants to work at should decide. I think you might have a point, but I don't think it's super connected to this.
I've been diagnosed with anxiety disorder, and I certainly had a clinical depression, and it is horrible. And I certainly couldn't have taken a test while I was ill like that. But at the same time, it's like if I couldn't take a test because I was mentally ill, I would be like, wow, college isn't for me. If I can't sit in a classroom and take a test, I can't be a student. If I can't sit in a classroom and take a test because of my anxiety, I can't be a nurse. You can't have, what if everybody in that class then said, I have anxiety too. We all need to take our tests in our own apartments, and we all need, you can't.
But anxiety comes in very different forms. Like I freaked out in that stats exam.
Right.
So what if someone was to say, well, then you probably are not cut out to be a professor, or you're certainly not cut out to be on a talk show.
I know,
apparently they're not 100% right.
But you haven't been diagnosed with anxiety.
That's true, but he was diagnosed with anxiety, and he does stand-up comedy, which seems to me like one of possibly the most stressful anxiety-producing things. I couldn't do it, but you can do it.
I tried to sue a comedy club. I need to do this show by myself in a room, and you need to broadcast it to the crowd. I mean, that's what this sounds like. It's like, I would be crazy to say that. It's like, why would you pick this profession if you can't even sit in a classroom and take a test? So that's where I'm at. It's like I'm all about helping people with mental disabilities, and we should help them. But to upend your society to accommodate people with anxiety and depression, it's too much to do. And I think she's 100% wrong here.
Wow.
They're already accommodating her. They're already letting her take the test somewhere else. It's crazy. You can't take a goddamn test. You need to get therapy. You don't need a fucking lawsuit. I'm not angry at her. It sounds like I'm
angry. A little bit angry.
I know.
I'm not angry at you.
I'm angry at the whole idea of this litigious society that because I guess I am angry at her. That is crazy. That's crazy for you to think.
I'm raging right now at her.
It's not
get
even
the
close
core
for me.
of what you're saying.
It's not even close for me. It's like at some point, it's like, hey, why don't I'm suing the Chicago Cubs because I can't throw or hit and they won't hire me.